Welcome back, everybody, to the Fighting for Freedom podcast. I just want to say thank you to everybody for all your love and support. You guys have helped this channel grow dramatically. If you could please, at this time, drop us a like, comment, subscribe, share our podcast, turn on those bell notifications, and leave us a rating and good review. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Fighting for freedom, one podcast at a time.
What up, what up? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of the pod. Jeff, brother, man, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Chilling, man, chilling. Thank you for, taking the time out of your day to come out here, give my people, give your people, and give the rest of the world some insight into Jeff and Jeff's life and what Jeff is doing currently today.
Yeah, of course, man. I appreciate you giving my podcast a follow, which is how I heard you or found out about you. And we'll talk, podcasting in a little bit, like we talked, offline. But yeah, man, thank you.
Yeah, man, no problem, man. I don't chase followers. I just chase the community. You know what I mean? I feel like
love that.
That's
a tagline. You need to trademark that, man.
I'm gonna get a T-shirt printed.
I'm gonna write that down. That was good.
There you go. I don't chase followers. I chase the community.
That was dope, dude.
That was a good one. All right, everyone listening.
I'm writing it down.
Everyone listening. If you like that one too, stop what you're doing. Hit that like button. Hit that sub button. Give us a good review, and let's get into the rest of the pod. All right, Jeff. So going back to phase one, day one. Where are you born? Where are you from?
So I'm from kind of a little town in Oklahoma. I guess it depends on what you define as little. But I grew up in a town that was like, it's grown now. It was like 25,000 people when I was born. It's just over 50,000 now, but we still have that small town farming mindset. It was an agriculture community here in northwest Oklahoma by Vance Air Force Base.
Okay.
So when I grew up, the only thing we really had was the base. That was the biggest employer. We have two hospitals. We're talking small hospitals, man.
Yeah.
400 and 500 bedroom things. We're talking, our bedrooms. We're talking like 20. Most things have to be meant flighted out. So, we had a Walmart for the longest time, and when we got a super Walmart, it made the news.
it was one of those. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So. Still small town mindset. It's grown a lot. We're getting a lot more businesses in. We just got a Texas readiness, so that puts it into perspective for you.
Oh, okay.
We're there.
Yeah, what are they? Yeah. If you guys get a McDonald's and a 7-Eleven, that's it. You're up there. You're one of the main travel destinations.
We've had a bunch of McDonald's and stuff before. It's like getting the other bigger chains to come in. Like we've had a Chili's and Applebee's. And, Texas Roadhouse is probably the top right now. But yeah, it's a small town. I lived here for 21 years before I decided to join the Air Force. And I did that because I met my wife at the time. We were dating, and it was kind of one of those connections. And she was like, if we want this to go anywhere, we want to start a family, we want to do something, we have to have serious income. I was working at Sears, selling lawn equipment and refrigerators and stuff like that, working for the commission. It was decent money, but it wasn't raising family money.
Yeah. And
she just said, we need to go to college. We need to kind of take that next step in our lives. Like Sears ain't going to cut it, and she suggested we go look at the military, and I thought she had lost her mind. I was like, you're crazy. We're at war right now. Like, you want me to go do that? Like, you've lost your mind.
Yeah.
But my brother-in-law was on active duty. And he was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base, and he was an A-10 crew chief. And he had been to war. He had been deployed, and he had been in for like 6 or 7 years. So I called him, and we just chatted. And he was like, it has its pros and its cons, man, but it's one of the best decisions you'll ever make if you decide to do it. Can you give me some advice? I went and talked to a recruiter. Long story short, I did the delayed enlistment, and I joined in 2005. And, the rest is kind of history.
Yeah. So that's actually kind of good because one of my biggest pieces of advice to people who are like thinking about joining the military is do your research, right? So
Yeah,
not only do your research, but you also had somebody that you could talk to and be like,
I
hey,
did.
like give me the down and dirty, like no recruiter talk, like family, man to man, like
Yeah, and it really set
what
me
is it
up because
about?
when I went into the recruiter's office, I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to ask, and I was defensive because
Hmm.
that stigma around recruiters. Um, I was defensive, but I had my questions, and I wasn't afraid to walk away. That was the
Yeah.
good thing. So I went into the Air Force first. My plan was then to go into the Navy, the Army, and then the Marine Corps last. Like that was my order. Because at the time, I'm going to do an enlistment, get my school paid for, and then I'm gone.
Hmm.
That was my goal. That was my mentality from day one. And that changed over the course of time, but that was my mentality going in. So I had a set of questions, things I needed to hear, feel comfortable with.
Hmm.
And then I went back and talked to my brother-in-law again, and we chatted and we talked about some things. And I didn't go see anybody else. The Air Force told me what I needed to hear. I got a guaranteed job, So for me, it was kind of like the perfect storm. Like I got what I
Good.
wanted out of it. I joined, and dude, it changed my life. Like completely changed my life. Like it gave me a level of patriotism that I'd never seen before. I didn't do one enlistment. I kept re-upping, and then eventually they had to force me out. They broke my body and they med boarded me and they forced me out. I didn't want to go. So
Wow.
complete 360. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
totally turned my life around. Best decision I've ever made. But yeah, that's a good point. Don't be afraid to reach out to other people and other veterans and ask questions because it's a big decision. It's a life changing decision. Like do your research and take your time. Don't let anybody pressure
Yeah. So how since you worked prior and you kind of had your life going for you before you enlisted, how old were you when you enlisted?
you. I was 21 when I left for basic.
Okay, so you weren't too old, but you weren't too young.
I was
That,
like,
that
I was one of the older people in my basic training class. Of
yeah.
the 60 something we started with, I think we graduated with just over 30. And I was one of probably the older five or six,
Hmm.
but not by much. I think we were all, you get that age range. Those 18 to 24-year-olds I think we had
Yeah.
one guy that was close to 30, but, I was a little older.
Yeah, we had people like that too, where, I'm like, damn, bro, like you just made the cutoff. We have the people who came in and they were allowed to enlist because they turned 18 while they were in boot camp. And then we had people who were allowed to enlist because they turned like whatever that age cutoff was right before they graduated boot camp. So I was like, we got the best of both worlds, you know? It,
Yeah,
it, it was
both
cool.
ends of the spectrum.
Exactly. It was cool to have two different kind of, I guess, outlooks on life, right? When you have different age groups in boot camp with you, you have the people who are just young, dumb, full of cum, and just balls to the wall, and then you have the people who are like, they've seen some shit, they've been through life, where they're like, bro, this this guy is 5 years younger than me, and he's making me do push-ups because I got a question wrong. It is what it is, like
Yeah,
obviously I got to do it just to like instill like that military mentality into your head, right? It's like
yeah, you
there's
have
been
to check your ego at the door and just
exactly.
do what you're told. And somebody told me, I can't remember who it was before I left for basic training. You graduate and your drill instructors don't remember your name. You did it right because you
Mm,
didn't make yourself noticeable. You didn't stand out. You didn't do anything. You just survived and you learned what you're supposed to learn and you graduated. And that's exactly what happened to me like that last week. A drill instructor looked me in the face and he was shorter than me. I'm like 6'2". So he was shorter than me. He kind of looked up at me and was like, "Who the fuck are you?" And I was like, "Yeah, nice." I didn't smile, but in my back of my head, I was like, "Yes, I got
uh, oh, we had the complete opposite versions of boot camp. I didn't try to stick out. It was just I have like the accent, so
it."
whenever
Yeah,
they heard the accent, and
too.
nobody else in my division, had my accent. We had one guy from the Bronx, but he didn't really have like the Brooklyn, New Yorker accent. So as soon as they heard me open my mouth, they were like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
too.
get him and bring. Yeah, bro. Every day, bro. Like I would wake up, my chief would come in, scratching his balls, smelling his fingers, and he's like, "Where the fuck's Harris?" I'm like, "Oh God!" And I would walk to like our tow line, and he would just be like, he would just pick words. Say coffee, coffee. Push-ups. I'm like, oh great. Say water, and I'd say, it was just like it wasn't like anything bad. It was kind of fun because like everyone came in and it was just me. He never like went crazy on me. He was just like, you have an accent. I know where you're from. You definitely got a thick skull. So I'm going to try to, like you said earlier, leave your ego at the door type of thing.
Yeah. I was an instructor later on in my career, and I had students that rolled through the schoolhouse, and I had a kid that was from Boston. We're talking deep Boston.
Yeah, got to that packy, yeah.
Yeah, doesn't pronounce R's at all. It's all an H. Like this dude had a heavy accent, so it was like I would do that to him too. I'd like, say this, say that.
Yeah. Dude, can you imagine if you had me and him together in the same flight?
Yeah.
Dude, I'd be like, you two get in the front of the room and just yell at each other. Just start arguing. There's nothing.
Having you at the front of the formation yelling out the Jodies, man.
Yo, there is nothing funnier than hearing accents clash, man. Well, one of my longtime buddies that I met in the Navy, actually, shout out Kane if you're ever listening. He's from Boston, and when we first this was during like COVID, where we didn't meet each other, but people knew who each of us were because I was at our battalion for like maybe a year and a half, 2 years longer. So they were like, "Yo, Vinny, you gotta meet this kid Kane." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." And they're like, "Yo, Kane, you gotta meet this kid Vinny. He's from New York." And he's like, "Fuck that New York." You know what I mean? So they're like filling our heads, getting us like pit bulls, just like I don't know, poking us with a stick. And then when we finally met each other, we just had like one of the funniest interactions I think I've ever experienced in New York and a Boston or whatever the hell they call themselves. Like actually go at it. But to this day, we're really good friends. He's definitely. I was the older one, so if he ever needed advice or needed help with military related shit, I would always be like, "Yeah, bro, I got you. Just buy me a Red Bull and we'll call it a day." All right, so you get through boot camp, fly, no pun intended, under the radar, and then you graduate. Where do you end up going after that?
So I went to McConnell Air Force Base in Kansas, and I wanted to go. Like stay in San Antonio where basic training is. I wanted to go over to the hospital, or I wanted to go to California. Like I wanted to leave the South, the Midwest. I wanted to leave.
You wanted to go to the Applebee's.
Yeah, and they sent me 2 hours up the road. Literally 2 hours from is where they sent me. At first, I really didn't like the idea of it, but like it was the best assignment I could have had because it allowed me to. I had 2 of my kids there. Family was just down the road. Mm-hmm. I was able to focus on school because I had a really good community college there. So it was the best assignment I could have had to start my career because it was just really structured in the way I had everything I needed.
No, definitely, yeah. There's always a happy medium with that, like I don't know. I bet your mentality was like, I'm going to join the service and I want to just go somewhere. I want to like start fresh, start clean. It's kind of like what I did. I, from New York, joined the Navy, and then they sent me further west to California. That was my first duty station. So it was nice for me to, just get out, start clean, new people, new atmosphere, new weather and everything. But it wouldn't have been that bad if I was, an hour or 2 away from, where I grew up, from my mother,
Yeah. Yeah, it was, at the time, I didn't realize it, but like, it was the best way to start a family and to start a life was to be right down the road. Because we had issues with, cars and moving and kids. And, both of our first 2 kids were in the hospital for extra time because they were born premature. So like we as new parents needed help with that. When you're brand new to the military on the enlisted side, you don't make any money.
Nope.
Paychecks are ideal. So being that close to home and in an economy that was very similar to what I came from, like it was a blessing, man, because I didn't have to like scram for things. It wasn't great, but at the same time, like it could have been way harder. Being in California with that same amount of money would.
Well, you do make a lot more money in California, depending on where you live and everything. But California, they definitely make some now I don't know what BAH was back then, but now, yeah, man, now it's kush. I think San Francisco has the highest BAH in all of the states. That's crazy. But you got to think, you spend $12 on a bottle of water. Housing is crazy. Having a car is like kind of pointless in a way because it's like, public transportation is kind of easier to get around. Parking sucks. I don't know. I like to go visit San Francisco. I don't like to I wouldn't want to be stationed there though. Except for the money. So, what was your job actually?
So I was in medical supply. They called it medical material. And my job was all the supplies, all the inventory, all the equipment for the hospital. My job was to secure that and maintain that and make sure it was always there. But we also had a readiness mission where we did reach back for the theaters. So when I was stationed at McConnell in Kansas, we did reach back for one of the hospitals there in Iraq. So we were constantly deploying supplies out the door to replenish what they needed over there. So us and a couple other bases that were charged with doing that. So we did a lot of basic medical supplies and a lot of medical kits. So medical kits like you would not believe. From personal IFACs all the way up to the medical kits that went on. So very, very busy. The ops tempo was very, very high there. It's a tanker base, so the KC-135s, the refuelers, that's what they got there. So between them and the security forces, like the ops tempo was just spinning like a top. So we were pretty busy.
Yeah, no, because earlier you said something about a hospital where you were looking for a hospital. So I was like, he must be in the medical field. But what kind of persuaded you, or what got your gears going to want to go into like the medical aspect of it?
When I went to MEPS, they basically handed me a binder and they said, here are the jobs. But this first page is the jobs that we're like heavily recruiting for. Like these are undermanned career fields, and there was probably 30 to 40 career fields on it. They highlighted some of the ones that I qualified for with my score. And this was one of them. Like other ones were like radar technician. There's some maintenance ones. I scored really high in mechanical and electrical. But my brother-in-law was in maintenance, so keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So he told me kind of what the maintenance schedule was like and what some of the aircraft were like. But they wouldn't let me go to like some of the aircraft that he had mentioned, so I was a little iffy on doing that. But then when I saw this and it said medical, I said, well, there's always going to be a need for medical stuff. That will never go away.
Yep.
I was thinking long-term for my future. I get into medical and then I get my further go in business or operations or supply or whatever. I paved my way forward. And I was focused on taking care of my family too. Like, we're going to start a family. So that was my biggest thing. I do this, it's to take care of my family. So I went into medical just because I'm not a medical guy. My wife's actually a physician. So
oh, wow.
I don't do blood and guts and all that stuff very well, but it's right up her alley. But I went into medical because of the longevity and what I thought it would do for my career. And so it was really awesome. It was a really rewarding career field, lots of opportunities there, and I really enjoyed it.
Wow. Hey, you know what, man? Good for you. What I just got from your whole story so far was you both sat down, had a serious conversation over a bowl of ramen noodles, and now you guys are going out catching lobster off your, I'm not gonna say yacht, but you know what I mean. Like, hey, good for you. You guys got your, no.
And we just
give it up to you.
And not to brag or anything, but we just work. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. If you lift little weights, you'll get strong, but it'll take you a long, long time. If you lift
like
heavy weights, you're gonna struggle quicker.
I went to school, and I'm still going to school. And I just researched how to use my benefits. So I used all my TA to get 2 bachelor's degrees and a certification. And then I used it again to start my master's degree. And then I used my GI Bill to finish my master's degree. And then I used my GI Bill, what was left of it, to start my doctorate. And I've just been hustling, just grinding away to try to just make a better future for myself. And the military helped me do that. And anybody can do it. Like I'm not anything special by any stretch of the imagination. But when I sat down to do something, I did my research and then I put my best foot forward.
Okay.
So I made sure it was an investment. It was an investment in me, so I made sure that every time.
Yeah, not like doing that. I'm glad you said that, because when people ask me, like, what's your job in the Navy, right? I say, listen, I picked my job because I wanted to do something that I knew would, like you said earlier, benefit me and my family when I got out. There's always a need for medical people. And by trade, I'm an HVAC and plumber. I'm an HVAC technician and a plumber. People are always going to be hot. People are always going to be cold. People are always going to clog toilets. You know what I mean? So it's just things that are necessary. So when I went in, same for me. They showed me that long list of paper. My ASVAB score was a lot lower. So there was only a couple of things, but like my eyes lit up because it was a UT, which is a HVAC and plumber, in the Seabees, because the Seabees is like, like we do like vertical construction and shit. So I was like, I'm joining the Navy. I get to do a trade and build like buildings and schools, and I never have to see a ship. Where do I sign? So I have literally never seen a ship. I don't know where they go. I say this all the time, and people are like, "You're in the Navy?" Yeah. I'm like, "Yeah, dude. I did my research." And you can get what you really want out of most things in life if you just, put your Instagram down and just go on Safari and Google shit real quick,
Yeah. Well,
So,
like my son, I told my son, he's on active duty now.
oh, really?
Yeah, and he wanted to. We had my son super early, but
Oh, okay.
he's been in for like 2 years now, and I was like, you want to do something that will transfer over, but like, don't go have fun. That was the one thing I didn't get to do because we started a family. So when I went on active duty, like I didn't go out and have like tons of fun. I didn't go see the world because like that. I was focused. So I was like, dude, go explore the world, go have fun. And he went into special operations avionics and works on C-130s and helicopters. And he's deployed and he's seen the world. He's been to Greece and like 17 other countries. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about, man. But he did his research and he studied for his ASVAB and he got what he wanted. And I think that's really important. Go do what you want to do in the military, like, because they're going to ask you to do what they want you to do. So you might as well ask them if you can go do what you want.
Mm-hmm. So how many years of service did you have when you finally said, okay, well, not what you said, when, your, I guess, contract came to an end, your time came to an end?
I was in just over 12 and a half years when my final date rolled around.
Okay. So you said it was like a medical type board, which they can push you out very fast, or they can push you out kind of on the slower end until like everything's caught up. Were you fast end or were you slow end? You were slow end?
Mine was slow, man, because when they first started it off, it would have been fast because if I would have accepted what they said, but I appealed at every level that I could appeal, I appealed it because they broke me. So I was like, I've got 12 years in, I'm 8 away from retiring, like full benefits and all that stuff. Like, I'm not just going to walk away. You're going to have to make me leave because you broke me. Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So I fought it at every level I could, and I eventually lawyered up and fought it, and that's how I got medically retired because it was like, you guys didn't fix certain things. It's in my medical record that you just ignored it. Like, my life has changed forever because of your failures, and they recognized that and they medically retired. But it took all of 2 years.
Wow, yeah, that is a long, long time. So what lessons learned do you have from that whole 2-year process?
My biggest lesson learned and I guess it maybe wasn't a lesson learned, but validation of the things
Okay.
I've been told was um, go document when you're hurt, when something doesn't feel right. Um, Go use your medical benefits for what they did it for you, to you for, and go get that stuff documented and tell them the truth, tell them what you can and can't do, and don't try to be some tough guy because when I got out, when they were kicking me out, they send you to the VA to do like an initial physical. They have a list of things that come from your medical record that they want the VA to look at. And my list was like 25 things long. And my VA guy was like, dude, this is awesome. Because the more you have, the better chance you have of getting good benefits through the VA. So when you transition, you're taken care of. And if you're not, you have a good baseline for doing appeals and filing more claims and things like that. He's like, it's the people who come in here who are being medical boarded for like one thing and have like 3 or 4 other things because they never went and saw the doctor. So I would go all the time. Be like, my knees don't feel good. Like I can run still, but like just being on active duty is beating the crap out of my knees. So that was probably the biggest lesson learned. The other thing was don't just sign on a dotted line, even if you want to leave. Don't just sign on the dotted line and accept what they're willing to give you. Because when I got my first piece of paper said, we're going to give you 20% disability. And my back and my shoulders were broken. I had blown out a knee. Like, I was like, no,
Yeah.
I struggle to walk on even my best day because you won't send me to rehab. You won't send me to physical therapy or anything like that. So don't just sign away because I fought it and I got 20, but I left with over 60.
Nice, nice. Did you go through that process yourself, or did you ask for like outside help for someone to back you, or were you lawyered up at this point?
So through most of the part of it, for most part of the medical process, when they're boarding you, you pretty much go through it by yourself with like a counselor that they
Gotcha.
have that is an expert in this process, and they kind of tell you along the way, like, okay, at this point in time, you can accept or you can appeal, and then you
Gotcha.
check a box. It goes to your first sergeant or commander, and then the next part starts, and it just goes to a point where hey, this is the final determination. What do you want to do? You can accept it or you can appeal, but you have to get a lawyer and you can choose to get a civilian attorney or a military attorney. Well, I didn't have a ton of money, so I was like, well, let me get a military attorney. And then the Air Force has literally military attorneys that work for military members. They do not work for the. So
Yeah.
there's a very definitive line. I got a military attorney. I went down to San Antonio and met with him, and he was like, dude, I think we have a decent chance, but I'm not real sure. So here's what we're going to do. Come see me tomorrow morning. You know, we'll go see the judge and we'll stand in there. We'll talk. It'll probably take about 30 minutes. So hand you a decision and this is it, bro. You know, like you were leaving. I was at that point in time, I was leaving the service. It was
Hmm.
just if I was leaving with general discharge or discharge.
Hmm.
And when I showed up the next morning, I walked into his office and he handed me some papers. He's like, dude, this is a done deal. I talked to the judge this morning and he saw a couple things on your medical record that we didn't cover. And he's like, it's too late. So he said, retire this guy. So I got to retire. I was very fortunate.
Good, good. I'm glad. I'm definitely glad it all worked out for you. I say the same thing too, man. I'm like, listen, like there's people who like you could tell like they're hurting or some shit happened to them, and I'm like, did you go to medical? And they're like, no, no, no. I'm like, bro, just go. Like no one's ego is gonna be hurt. Like just go. Like get that shit documented because one, like you signed the contract to fight for your country and enlist in the service. You're gonna take care of us. Well, they gotta take care of you. You know what I mean? Like, can't have broken people out there.
Yeah. Get
Yeah,
your
it's just
documentation from your deployments to your assignments to your medical, like things that happen to you, make a copy of it. Make sure it's documented somewhere. And then when you go to get out, get a copy of all that documentation because they'll have it. But if you get it before you leave and you have a copy of it, when you
mhm.
go to do things in the future and apply for benefits, whether it's state and county benefits all the way up to federal benefits, copies of those things show that you have it, and then you don't have to wait for nobody. You don't have to call a hotline. You don't have to send an email to some org box and request a copy of your record. You have all of it. And then you can just say, no, I am this. Or you guys did this. And then it cuts the timeline on some of those processes and some of those claims.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then the other thing too, like, so you were still active duty when you were going through all this.
Yes.
Sometimes what people do is they wait until they get out of the military, right? And then they file their claim, a couple months later, and they might miss out on some things because the military's like, well, you waited like a year, so like, how do we know this is what happened? Like maybe you have a job and you did it out in town, like we have no clue. So it's good to. There's even a program, I don't remember the name of the program, that helps you, like you said earlier, kind of like start your process with the VA while you're still active duty.
Some of the best people to ask about that are fellow veterans. Like, go on LinkedIn and Facebook and go to the different veterans groups and just ask questions or start scrolling and reading, because that was probably the best way that I learned so many different things between VA benefits and benefits from different companies and how to write my resume and all that stuff. I learned 90% of that after I left, and I've had conversations like this.
Yeah, you can learn so much off Facebook. It's crazy. It's like the old people's version of YouTube, but it's nice because you can have somebody to like an actual human, like, for example, you, right? Like, we met on social media. What if I was just on one of those websites, like, hey, like, I'm filing my VA claim. They offer me 20%. I don't want it. I denied it. What is my next step? Here comes Jeff. Hey, man, I was in the exact same boat as you. This is my advice. This is what I did. If you don't like it, then it is what it is. But if you need help and you have more questions, feel free, because I did the exact same thing. It's just.
I got to 100% because I met an Army Ranger who had gone through the process and had his own little program. And you could buy this program, and that's what he did in retirement. He bought this program and he coached you through how to do your documentation for the VA, so that the first time around you had a very high success rate. And that's what I did, because I had things on there that were just stubborn things I could not get the VA to give me a rating for. And he was like, have you ever thought about this? Have you ever saw a mental health counselor for these injuries? And he just was like, anxiety, depression, all these things. Like, you need to ask about them, and open my world up to things. And I was like, dude, I have no idea. Like, you could tie injuries to other injuries and say,
yep,
this is part of my problem. And then it just kind of dominoes. Like, I would not have known that if I hadn't have met him.
I think what they do is they tie some things into some things. There's a breakdown of, it's called the CF38 Book C. Pretty sure that's literally exactly what it is. And that'll give you the breakdown of like what you have and the way it's branched out and categorized, and then like what your percentages would be. Yeah. So if anyone has any questions or is like what are they talking about, or where do they get in this information if it's not from somebody else's mouth, you can just easily go on Google, look that up, and it'll kind of just break everything down for you. Yeah. No, man, that's dope. Do you actually have that guy's contact? Do you want to plug him out there? Or I'm open to it.
Man, I'm gonna probably screw it. I think his name is Ranger Johnson. If you go on to LinkedIn, specifically LinkedIn is where I found him. I believe his name is Ranger Johnson. I can't remember the name of his program, but it was really, really good.
Nice.
He's an older Ranger, older African American gentleman, freaking awesome, highly motivated. I've been on his podcast before.
Oh, really? Dope.
I think his program, like Championship Builders or Champions for Veterans or something like that. But Ranger Johnson,
it's all good.
If you go look that up, you'll find him, and he had an awesome program that taught me things I had no idea.
Nice. Yeah, we ain't a paid promotion. We don't have to know the name out here. It's fine. I just like to help people and plug people in.
Go look up Ranger Johnson on LinkedIn, and you'll find him. I'm sure. So you need to be listening. That's the guy.
Okay, so we're on a podcast that I run. Ranger Johnson has a podcast that he runs, but Jeff also has a podcast.
Yes.
Let's talk about that, Jeff. How did this come to light?
So I thought about doing a podcast during COVID, like right at the beginning of COVID when things were starting to lock down.
Gotcha.
And then I took a job with not U.S. Space Command, Air Force Space Command in Colorado Springs. So we moved from Oklahoma to Colorado Springs. And my wife was going through school, and I really needed something to kind of like fill my time. She was in Oklahoma still going to school, so it was just me and the 3 kids in Colorado Springs. And I just said, I really need something to fill my time and stay connected to a community of some sort, because now we're working from home. I hardly see anybody. And, I started a course of action because I really wanted to just connect with people. I was on LinkedIn at the time, and I was gaining new connections, and I thought, what a great platform to do it, and start a podcast. And first I started it and I didn't really know where it was going. I was just trying to invite the veterans on, things like that. Then it kind of funneled into, veterans and people who are kind of writing their story. And then it kind of transferred into, now specifically I interview a lot of authors, and a lot of authors who have military connections, or they're first responders, law enforcement. So now it's just kind of one of those things where I talk a lot of authors or people like you who are just kind of writing their own story. And we just chat about their projects and what they're doing, and their military service or law enforcement service or whatever it may be. And it's really turned into an awesome thing. It's a labor of love, as you know, uploading and recording and editing and notes. And it's sometimes you just kind of go, oh, this is overwhelming. This is a lot of work to do, especially if you try to pump out an episode a week or whatever. But I kind of took an approach of, I'm not doing it really for me. I'm doing it for other people. So like my platform gives other people a chance to promote who they are. And then they can be introduced to another audience. And then as you start to multiply, it really helps people out who are trying to do.
Yeah, man. What the biggest expression I've ever heard of in my life, and you've probably heard this too, being in the service: do the right thing even when no one is looking.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the mentality, like that. When I was younger, I was like, "Oh, there's a piece of trash in the street. I'm from New York. It's normal, right?" But now, like the older me, I'm like, you know what? Like, let me just pick this up. It ain't gonna make a huge difference. It ain't gonna save the world, but it helps me like be like, all right, you did something good today, So, getting back to referring to what you were just saying, it's good to have other people on, and I don't need compensation from anything. I don't need you to post me on your channel or your page 8 times a day. No, man, let's just hang out, bullshit, make connections, and wherever the wind takes us, that's where the wind takes us. It's fun. So you have some cool guests on your podcast. You don't have to say the names, but who would be like one of those guests that you took the most from that episode?
Oh man, that's really good. The one I took the most from, I don't know. I've really enjoyed all of them. I'd say the highlight for me was I had Brad Thor on. Brad Thor is a huge fiction author, 20 plus novels, and I thought I got to know his publicist a little bit. I've been to a couple of book conferences and I met his publicist, and
nice.
I've been really cool with him on social media. And I just said, I said, hey, any chance? I know you represent a couple of different authors. I've met them, had a small conversation with them. Any chance I could get them on the podcast? Fully knowing the chance of me getting told no was probably pretty high. These guys are #1 New York Times bestsellers. What do they need with some clown like me? And the answer was yes.
Really?
It wasn't how many viewers do you have, how many followers do you have, anything like that. It wasn't nothing. He's like, yeah, sure. Give me your email and send me the details, and we'll sync up calendars with Brad, and we'll do this. And Brad Thor came on, and we had a hour-long conversation. And at the end of it, he was like, we're done? I was like, yeah. He's like, that blew by like so fast. He was like, I feel like I've known you forever. Like, so that, I think that is maybe, if I had to generalize anything, it's when I have conversations like these on the show and we talk like we've known each other forever. Like we're talking now, like we just know each other, you know?
Yeah.
And you generally just enjoy the conversation. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway I've had from it. But Brad Thor is a highlight because I'm a big Brad Thor fan. I'm trying to write some fiction books myself. And he, to me, is like, he's one of the goats, you know, him and Tom Clancy, Clive Cussler, you know, he was up there. So that was after that episode I recorded, I was like, I don't even have to record another episode. This is done. I'm finished. I got Brad Thor on. So it was awesome.
It definitely, for me at least, I know, like you said earlier too, you know, it's like we're doing everything, you know, we're getting the guests, we're doing the uploads, we're doing the editing, the social, the this, the that, the this, the that. And it gets annoying for my wife. My wife's like, all right, are we done with the podcast today? You know, she's like, can we like go to Target or go to Starbucks or something?
Yeah.
But it's, you know, and she understands because even before I started this was her idea. She wanted to do a podcast for herself. But we're kind of two different people, opposites attract in my household, where, you know, she's not as loud and outgoing and, you know, talkative as I am, where I'll talk to a stick and turn it into a tree, you know? So for me, it was a little different. So I was like, you know what? If you want to do this, I'm going to try it first. And if I fail, at least I fail and you don't have to like deal with it, right? But she sees me having a good time, so she's like, I want to try too. And she's actually she's not a physician, but she's a critical care nurse. So she deals with she deals with some crazy stuff all day long, and, you know, all of her experiences. So she kind of wants to get into like the same thing where I talk to veterans and hear their experiences and their advice, and maybe they went to where they went to school and the certificates they got. She kind of wants to do the same thing, you know, because
it's cool.
There's always going to be a need for military, and there's always going to be a need for nurses. So
go away.
No, never. So who is Jeff's like, I know you said you had Tom on, you had like your goal, but who's the step above Tom? Who would be like your all-time, like, if I get this guy, I'm going to take my kids to Chuck E. Cheese, buy my wife another ring, and live happily ever after?
No, Brad Thor was kind of pinnacle for me.
Okay, hey, good though. That's a good thing.
But there are a lot of people that I haven't had on yet that I'd like to have on. I'd like to have Jack Carr on. I'd like to have Mark Greene on. I would like to have more military authors on, because even if that episode doesn't reach the viewership that I'd like the Brad Thor episode did. That's not the point. The point is, once I put your name into the podcast on all my different platforms and all my different social media, then that triggers your name in searches, and it's more the tech side, you know, the SEO and the algorithms and all that, because you might be trying to make your career and you might not have a massive book deal like, you know, a Brad Thor does. But that means you just have to hustle a little harder, or you have to do all the work that Brad Thor had to do to get where he is, you know? So, my point is, I'm going to have you on and we're going to chat like this because I don't know who's listening, who might go buy your book and follow you on social media or see you on YouTube, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's lost one of my AirPods, man. I can tell I'm a rookie at this. But,
man down.
Yeah, I'm used to the big, you know, headphones. My wife was like, "You really need to get some AirPods and get caught up to the 21st century." And I'm like, all right. Anyway, but like, that's kind of my thing, is like, I always want to have on new people or people who are looking to share their story, because I want them to share their story. And that's kind of how that extended hand was how I joined the military, and how the rest of my life changed when my brother-in-law said, let's talk about the military if you really want to. So that extended hand for me is something that I'm always going to pay forward. And I'm going to say, like, dude, if you started to write a book, I bet I need to be your first podcast. That's not it. You need to call me. It's a guarantee. We'll work schedules out. But when you set up to launch your book, we're going to talk. Me and you are going to talk beforehand, and then we're going to record a podcast episode, and I'm going to promote the shit out of you. Just because, even if I don't read your book, you never send me a copy or anything like that. That's not what it's about. It's about the fact that the more hands that are extended out and help pull you up, the more success you can have, and then you pay that forward, and it's a domino effect in our community that changes the game. No publisher, no marketing service, no publicist is going to do what we can do for each other.
Yep. And plus, like, when all's said and done, and that book is doing very well, and the author is just ecstatic, you're more than likely going to get your own copy from that author, personalized, and that note that they write, instead of just signing their name, that note, that little short paragraph is going to mean so much more than any dollar amount. It just gives you the attitude to just keep going forward and keep doing what you're doing, man.
Yep.
That's dope. I wish to write a book one day, but I'm still debating if I should do it in like English or like New Yorkese. I don't know if I should. That'll be funny.
You might have to do a little bit of both, man, because people like a unique story and a unique background. And I know when I wrote my first book, it was like, how do I tell this? Do I tell it from my perspective? Are people going to give a shit? And my publisher was like, it needs to be authentic. When people read the words, they need to know that, it was you behind those words, and that there wasn't some editor who made massive changes or anything like that. We don't want to change your voice. We want it to come from you. So, exactly. And going back to, the signatures, like every time I autograph a book, and I don't do it often, but every time I autograph a book and send a book out, like that signature and that blurb that I write in there that goes directly to the individual, it means a lot to me. So those words are not hollow words.
Yeah, people. I don't have like a store or like a business when it comes to like this podcast, but I went out and I got like a machine, and I made a little design of my own that I use as my logo, and I made fucking t-shirts, right? And I threw them up, and I was like, hey, if anybody wants one of these, it's $30. Hit me up. I'll mail it to you, and I write a little note. I send them some stickers, because when everybody gets stickers, they lose their fucking shit. I swear to God, that's one of the best marketing strategies for Yeti.
It is.
Because it's like, I'll spend $60 on a cup because I get the cool sticker,
My refrigerator in my garage is full of stickers.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone loves stickers.
Archery to beer companies to my fellow veterans sending me stickers. Like, it's a whole thing covered in stickers because you just get them and it's like, whoop, I gotta stick it on something.
I gotta. No, dude, it's definitely fun. Where do you upload your podcast to?
So, right now I upload it just to Spotify and YouTube because Spotify sends it out to dozens of different places, including Apple. But Spotify does video and audio. So now I don't have to, when I edit, I don't have to rip two files. I just rip one file because Spotify uploads video but separates an audio file. So when you go to Spotify on your computer, you can pull up the video. But if you go onto your phone, you can choose to pull up the video or just listen to the audio.
Gotcha.
So I cut that editing time in half, so I just have one file now. So I upload it to Spotify, and then I upload it to YouTube, and then I'm done.
Okay, so if someone listening wants to check you out, what's your handle for Spotify? What's your handle for YouTube?
So on Spotify, just look up Course of Action, and I think there's two of them on there. One of them hasn't been updated in forever, and then you'll see the other one. You'll see the red, white, and blue kind of logo. It says Course of Action with my name on it. And then on YouTube, just go look up Jeff Clark Official, and then it'll bring up my page. And then on my page, I have other videos, but then I have the podcast as a playlist, and you can look at all the past episodes. I think we're on episode like 73 or 4 now.
Wow. Man, you've been doing this, well, I mean, since COVID, you got to think. And you do a new episode a week?
Yeah, not the whole year, though. So I'll do, this year I did probably 8 or 9 months out of the year. I just recently took a break, but I have a couple of episodes like in the queue. So I haven't put a new episode out in almost a month now, just over a month now. And I got a couple of episodes that I'm going to put out here in November. And then I'll probably take a break until January, and then I'll probably start hunting for people to record with in January. And I'll put episodes out. So I kind of did them in spurts. And the biggest thing I learned was when I go into recording mode, I have like a spreadsheet. So as I schedule people, I plug them into an episode number, and I have a schedule. So then I always have episodes that I'm ready to release. So when I'm done recording and I'm like, I don't want to record anymore, the next 2 months off, I'm not recording until May. Well, then I have 15 to 20 episodes that I've recorded. I just got to edit them. So then I can take a couple of days out of my week and I can just edit and upload, and then you can schedule them. So I just schedule stuff to be released, and then I sit back and let it go. And that was probably the biggest thing I learned about podcasting was if you try to do it in real time, you're always going to feel like you're playing catch up. But if you use some of those tools that Spotify and YouTube have, you can you do all the work now, and then you schedule it out, and then it just premieres and uploads on its own, and then you sit back and just promote it.
Yeah, no, I do the same shit. I pump out episodes and do podcasts, and it's like every time I do an episode, like I'll do maybe 2 or 3 episodes a week, right? But I learn something new every episode. And in the span of that week that there's an episode released and then the new one that Sunday after, I've learned so much that when I do my next episode, you're going to be like, whoa, like where did this come from? Like, where did this kid come from, So everyone always has something to offer, and everyone's always teaching me. I'm like a sponge, I'm just trying to be a sponge where I'm just trying to like take everything that everybody has to offer and just use it. I'm also young into this game that I feel like I'm only 29. People that I talk to on here, or some of them are my friends, but most of the people are a lot older than me. So it's like you got 12 more years of experience on this world. Like, what do you have to tell me? I'll listen to it.
Yeah.
No, it's dope, man. It's dope. That's good. So you said you did YouTube where you had your podcast on there as well. What other types of videos do you post on your YouTube?
I've posted some archery stuff before.
Okay.
Some book reviews, just little stuff like that. Nothing too crazy. I got into the YouTube Shorts there for a little while. I was just posting little short videos, whether it was a clip from the podcast or a clip for something else, just to try to use all the different avenues of things. And people have such a short attention span nowadays that, sometimes you got to tease them with a little something so they'll go back and watch, the bigger video.
Yeah, no, exactly. You got to use your 45-minute long video and use that 8-second clip to make people catch to go to that longer video.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how it is, though. Like, it's like you see things where you're like, oh, I even see a lot of podcasts like that. Like, there's one that Locked In with Ian Bick. It's a guy, he went to prison and now he interviews like people who were in prison. And I literally seen this off TikTok. I seen a little clip. I was like, I'm interested. Now I listen to this kid all the time. I mean, he's big, he's like a bigger podcaster. But it's that little clip that made me know who the hell he is. If it wasn't for that little clip, I would have never have known who this guy was. Yeah, so, I mean, as much as we don't want to get all into the social media, because it's just a hassle and time-consuming, you kind of have to.
You do. It's a labor of love. I hate it, but you have to do it if you want.
Yeah.
If you want your mission and what you're doing to succeed, you have to embrace it to a degree.
Yeah, no, 100%. All right, well, transitioning out of your phenomenal podcasting career right now, let's get into let's go back to the previous career you had. What advice would you have for somebody who's about to transition from active duty to the civilian side?
Don't rush it.
Okay.
Take your time, do your research, and have a plan, and share that plan. Because you look forward to it. When you make that final decision, you kind of start to look forward to it. But everything changes once you leave. And to me, it was the dumbest thing. It was the littlest thing that changed my world. Was I woke up the very next day and I didn't have to go into work, which meant I didn't have to put on camouflage. I had to decide what I was going to wear that day.
Yep.
That's a big deal, man. When we're used to wearing camouflage every single day. And then you have to wake up and go, well, I actually have to go somewhere today and look presentable. But normally I would do that in my uniform.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't have a lot of those clothes because you've never had to wear them. I mean, when I got home from work, a lot of times I just put a pair of athletic shorts on and I'd wear my tan T-shirt that was underneath my uniform.
Yep.
Like, I didn't have a ton of that stuff, and a lot of people don't. So that was the biggest thing. But I think have a plan and share that plan and don't rush getting out, because so much changes from what you wear every day to the money. Like, you no longer get a BAH anymore. So that money, that $1,200, $1,500, whatever you're making, it goes away. And there's not other companies out there who do that. So you now have to make that money up to keep your standard of living. So a lot of things change. So don't be afraid to have a plan and share that plan and talk to other veterans and let them shoot bullet holes in it, because the people who came before you know best as to how that worked out for them. So let them be your muse. Let them be that person who can sit there and talk on your shoulder and say, dude, don't do that. Or, hey, go apply for this, or go do this, or send me your resume so I can beat it up and I'll change things. Like, those are resources that they don't tell you about. They tell you about the government websites, the VA website, and all that BS, which is great stuff. But they don't tell you the time-tested things you need, or people like you that have their 214 in their hand and have done it before.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm still active, so you ask me what it's like to transition, I'm going to say, I don't fucking know. But this guy, Jeff told me, this is what he did. This is what he likes. You can go listen to my episode. It's kind of the reason why I'm doing all this stuff, because I have no clue. And I'm better preparing myself by talking to people like you, talking to people in the past, hearing their experiences. And plus, I hope that maybe when I get to that point, if, we're still in, the same part of the world, I can hit you up and be like, yo, Jeff, you got like 10 minutes? Can I call you? Like, I'm about to get out. Like, what just a quick advice, or just find some Facebook page and be like, help, like, who else was in the Navy and is not anymore?
You got to. You can't do it alone, and you can't do it without help. It's impossible. Like, I tried to do it, and I didn't ask for a lot of help, and I fell flat on my face a lot of times. And it took me, I finally talked to one of my friends he was in the Guard, but he was, he has that veteran status because he's not on active duty, and he's not in the Guard all the time. So he had an idea, and I was like, dude, I cannot land a job. And he said, send me your resume. And he called me back and was like, dude, you're not getting a job because your resume sucks.
Yeah.
I was like, what? I thought it was awesome. I thought it was hot shit. I thought it was going to be a high commodity.
That was awesome.
And he's like, you're doing this, and this wrong. Like, I can't tell you this, and I can't tell what you're trying to go for. Like, he sent me his resume, and it changed the game for me. And then after that, I was getting people interested. I got a job with the federal government. Like, so all it takes is like one phone call or one email. Say, hey, I need some help, man. How can you help me with this? And if they don't know and they point you in a different direction, you go for that and do it, because don't devalue that connection.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that, because just try to help people. Just try to let people know, like, hey, you're not alone, man. Like, the stove has been hot and I've touched it before. Don't worry.
It doesn't have to be stressful.
Yeah. So that's kind of the transitioning out of the military into the civilian world. Now, when you're in the civilian world, a lot of people want to go to school. Now, Jeff, you actually went to school. How was that for you? And how soon after you getting out of the military did you start going to school?
Well, I got my bachelor's degrees and my master's degrees on.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I left active duty, I had my master's degree, and I had it for a couple of years.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing is understanding if you're going to go to school post service. Again, talk to fellow veterans, go to the school that maybe you want to go to and see if they have a veterans department and go talk to them. Because a lot of schools I found today have veterans departments or veteran POCs that you can talk to and say, how do I use my benefits to the maximum extent? And then they can help you do that and get scholarships, et cetera, and they can make the process just a little less difficult because you're working with another veteran office or another veteran. I have gone to school post-service and I started my doctorate degree. And it's a different level of school. It's very, very, very heavy on paper writing. But I would say don't rush it. Look into the benefits and find out what you need, and then just take your time, because nothing is going to change necessarily overnight. So just do your thing and go with the flow, and just make it your goal to finish things, because it's not about winning the race and being first. It's about winning the race and completing it, because even that guy who wins the race and is in first place, what if he doesn't know what to do with the success?
Yeah. Now what?
But you finish the race and you see all the people before you mishandle their success or make mistakes. You learn a lot more from that. And again, you still finish the race. So you can then apply those lessons learned, and you can write your own success. Like, that's a problem. A lot of people think you got to finish fast and be the first and be good to go, and then you're going to be the top guy. Well, I've interviewed people for government jobs before as a hiring official, and they thought they were hot shit. They had a hot shit resume, but they couldn't answer an interview question to save their life.
Yeah, like you got here fast.
Yeah,
but yeah. No, definitely, man. Has there been any other resources that you've used since getting out of the military that you'd like to share?
I think my biggest resource has been social media and connecting with other veterans and doing stuff like this, because again, it's a resource that they're not going to mention. They're going to tell you the VA website, this website, that website. Go to your state and county and talk to them about your benefits and blah, 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 blah. That's all good resources, but they don't tell you everything. They don't tell you the little things. They don't tell you how to make it less stressful, like this conversation will. So I think social media and connecting to other people and building your community is your greatest resource.
Yeah, one of the things I've noticed too with veterans, so like veterans helping veterans, right? Put it into perspective. I was in the military. You were in the military. We both have that thing that not a lot of people have in common, right? And we know how stressful it is while you're in, getting out, your uniform inspections, your money, your this, your that. It all just builds up, and it gives you a headache for your entire time of service, and then even slowly getting out. What I've noticed though is a lot of veterans like genuinely want to help people who are veterans. If you're about to get out, for the most part, people have gave me and told me advice, and in the civilian world, it's kind of hard because you don't know who you can and can't trust. I'm not speaking from, I'm not saying do what I do, say what I say, but I have never met a veteran who tried to steer me in the wrong direction. Everyone has different walks of life, and everyone has, different things that they've done and ways that they've done it. You just gotta find the right people, find the right comparisons to what you're going through, and run with it, man. I bet Jeff is not the only one who went through your career the way you did and where you are now. Definitely not. No.
There's tons of resources out there. I've noticed that LinkedIn seems to be a very professional place where a lot of veterans are getting into sharing those different things. So, bite the bullet and get all the social medias, and find your communities, because that's where the information is being shared, veteran to veteran. And then, of course, you get linked up with different programs and different employers that are veteran friendly and have veteran programs. But you got to work your way. You got to hustle and grind if you want to get what you want.
Yeah. So everyone listening, step 1, get one of my t-shirts. Step 2, read Jeff's book. Step 3, download LinkedIn. No, awesome, man. Awesome. No, really.
I don't think that's a bad plan.
Yeah. And make sure when you get my sticker, you put it on your fridge. No, I'm joking. Oh, man. All right, Jeff. Any questions that I did not ask that you kind of want to cover or go over?
No, man. Like, I do a lot of stuff on social media. Try to do some live shows. Try to promote other people. Kind of give people a dab of what I've been working on, projects and things like that. So, reach out to me on social media. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at official JS Clark. You can find the Course of Action podcast is on Instagram. So go ahead, hit me up, and never be afraid to send me a DM. And the biggest thing that you can do as a veteran, somebody who's trying to do big things in life, is don't be shy on being a self-promoter. You've got to promote what you're doing and get people to listen and get there and learn from the people that came before you. And, I learned that the biggest thing was, like, if you reach out to somebody and they don't want to give you the time of day, just shrug them off and find the next guy, because there are people out here who do.
Dope, man. Dope. Thank you. Any questions you have for me?
No, man, I appreciate you doing this. I appreciate what you're doing. And I think it's awesome. There's not a lot of people who go out there and say, I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to dedicate time and do this, because it's hard to get paid. Not all of us are getting paid like Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
That's just the truth. I do it from my house. I do not have another building. I don't have fancy equipment. Make it look good with what I have.
Yep.
To me, it's conversations. So, man, hats off to you for doing it.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much, Jeff. I wish we were in person so I could give you a hug and give you the proper goodbye you deserve.
Yeah, but I turned around and there was a sticker on my back.
All right, Jeff, thank you so much for coming out. Thank you so much for all of your stories, all of your experiences, and all your wisdom you had to offer, man. Yet again, if anybody listening wants to get in contact with Jeff, he hit me up on social media. So he will definitely answer you. He's not a person who's going to be like, I'm busy. No.
Yeah, man.
That wasn't, I rarely have anybody come to message me saying, hey, if you need a guest on your podcast, let me know. I'm just a normal guy who was in the Air Force, but I'll talk to you. That's exactly what I'm looking for, man. And Jeff, I couldn't be more grateful and just happy for you reaching out, man. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, man. Yeah, we'll chat offline. I got some recommendations for you.
All right, awesome. Jeff, thank you very much. Freedom Empire, until next time. Catch you guys later. Views presented are those of the speaker, and the guest do not necessarily represent the views of the Department of Defense or its components. Neither the Department of Defense or its components bears any responsibility for the accuracy, legality, or content of the views discussed on this podcast.